Chapter 1. The hospital wakes up. Yu-Hai woke up in a daze, only feeling sore all over his body. His limbs were weak, and he couldn't move. He struggled to open his eyes, and what he saw was a pure white ceiling. He barely raised his head and looked around. This should be a ward, with a young man sitting by the bed, dozing off, a little strange. What was I doing before? Yu-Hai frowned and closed his eyes again, and began to recall in his mind. Then a flood of memories flooded my mind. It took a long time for Yu-Hai to understand his current situation. He has crossed. The original body is also called Yu-Hai, a sophomore in the composition department of Haoan University, 19 years old this year. As for why he was hospitalized, it had to start 10 days ago. 10 days ago, in the parallel world on July 2021, 7. Yu-Hai, who was working during the summer vacation, was hit by a sports car on his way home with his father. In order to protect him, his father died on the spot. Yu-Hai suffered a comminuted fracture of his right leg and was hospitalized. The perpetrator escaped. Due to the remote location of the incident, there were no witnesses, although the surveillance camera captured the ins and outs of the car accident, and also saw the perpetrator getting out of the car to check after hitting someone. It's a pity that the lens is far away, and the license plate number cannot be seen clearly. In addition, whether it was intentional or not, the perpetrator was wearing a hat and a mask. There were too few clues, and the police failed to find the target for several days in a row. Until the fourth day, when Yu-Hai woke up, he heard a familiar melody. That was the work he was going to use for the songwriting contest. The notebook that recorded this song was picked up by the perpetrator at the scene of the car accident. Although it is unbelievable that the perpetrator would be so arrogant, and after the hit and run, he did not hide it well, but stole his work openly and published it. Yu-Hai immediately asked the family members who accompanied him in the ward about the song information. It was a 16 or 17-year-old girl with a round face. Hearing Yu-Hai's question, she dimpled with joy. This is the song from Suyu Chang's latest album. It's called Give You All. It's his. Is it nice to write the lyrics and compose the music yourself? Suyu Chang, a top-notch freshman who debuted on a talent show, has released a few singles since his debut, and was ridiculed by passers-by as something no dog would listen to. Yu-Hai couldn't believe it. In this world where copyright is perfect and plagiarism is intolerable, Suyu Chang dared to blatantly usurp his works. Yu-Hai immediately took out his phone and contacted the police officer in charge of his case, explaining his findings clearly. He was so angry that he thought he had finally found the murderer, and he could be brought to justice. He swore to himself that he would never forgive the other party, and he would let this shameless executioner sit in prison. It's a pity that the police officer in charge gave him a basin of cold water, not for anything else, just because he has no evidence. He has no evidence to prove that he wrote the song, and he has not registered the copyright of this song, nor has he shown it to others. Because of his family relationship, Yu-Hai has been introverted since he was a child, and he has almost no friends. He also writes songs in private, in order not to be laughed at. He didn't even tell his father. In addition, he has no evidence to prove that the car that caused the accident was driven by Suyu Chang. Even if he found the car, even if the car was in Suyu Chang's name, he could still claim that the car was lent to a friend, handed over to the staff for maintenance, or even stolen. The police officer in charge comforted Yu-Hai and would help him find evidence as soon as possible, so that he could recover from his injuries with peace of mind. But Yu-Hai waited for a day, 2 days. There was no news. He was lying on the hospital bed, constantly searching for news about Suyu Chang on his mobile phone. His album was a hit, and the song Give You All became a hit. Netizens said that because of this song, Suyu Chang changed his mind. It was rare for music critics not to criticize him. Many people even thought that Suyu Chang had a bright future. His fans rejoiced, and press releases of praise were flying all over the place. But there is no information that Yu-Hai wants to see. Then he saw the notice issued by Suyu Chang's studio. The general content was that All You Have was written and composed by Suyu Chang himself, and it has copyright. Warn those sunspots in Suyu Chang, falsely accuse them of breaking the law, have the ability to produce evidence, and so on. Below is the overwhelming support from fans and many passers-by, without evidence, who is slandering people's innocence. There are always some people who can't see the good of others. Is there anyone who doesn't know that spreading rumors violates the law? Heisey killed the whole family. Angrily, Yuhai logged into his social account and posted a few messages on Suyu Cheng's Weibo. God knows what you did. Skynet is restored, careless but not leaking you this executioner. Obviously, he was besieged by Suyu Cheng's fans. The viciousness of some of them was the only one he had ever seen in his life. Spreading rumors will kill the whole family. Do your parents know your face? Do you have a tutor? Just say it when you're jealous. In the less than 20 years of his life in the sea, he never knew that human speech could be so sharp and cold as a knife. However, his father left to protect him, and there was no one who could protect him, comfort him, or give him strength. Yuhai began to have nightmares and was depressed. The death of his father, the helplessness of being alone, all the restlessness, anxiety, and confusion after the car accident all burst out at once. He began to keep asking himself, can the truth really come to light? You can give him justice. The other party is a top streamer with tens of millions of fans, but he is just a nobody. No one will believe him, maybe even the police. What should I do? Why should I be nostalgic for such a world? How about just go and accompany father? His mood was getting lower and lower day by day, and the light in his eyes dimmed little by little. He was not looking at his mobile phone, and sat on the hospital bed in a daze all day long. And he ate very little food from the nurse. But no one cares about him. Yuhai, who had been dependent on his father since he was a child, had no relatives after his father died. Although he was hospitalized, he was not accompanied by his relatives. Only the police officers in charge of his case would find time to visit him from time to time. So, he easily got a fruit knife. On the 10th day after the car accident, that is, on the night of July 15th, he hid in the toilet and cut his wrists. After the memory was over, Yuhai opened his eyes again and subconsciously looked at his left wrist, which was already wrapped with white gauze. He let out a sigh of relief, and a mechanical voice sounded in his mind. Ding, the time travel is complete. Ding, the system binding is complete. Ding, the novice gift pack has been delivered to the account. Then there was no sound. Yuhai was a little confused. Is the time travel system so sloppy now? Could it be that there are too many crossing parties, and the system headquarters is too busy? He called the system subconsciously in his mind, and then he found a tree appeared in his mind. Just a normal brown trunk with green leaves and no bling. After a little research, he finally understood the function of his golden finger. To put it simply, as long as others have emotional values towards him, whether they like it or hate it, they can be collected by this tree. When the emotional value is collected to a certain extent, the tree will bear fruit. What is the function of the specific fruit? We'll have to wait for the results to know. Yuhai consciously opened a small package next to the tree, and then a piece of information automatically flashed in his mind. Ding, the host got the song Toxiang. The author is J-Jo. No more. Yuhai pouted. The novice gift packs in this system are a bit small. However, after learning Deoxiang, he automatically learned the basic music theory and how to use related instruments such as arrangement. Not stingy either. When the melody of Deoxiang was echoing in Yuhai's mind, a voice rang in his ear. Are you awake? Yuhai opened his eyes, and it was the young man who was dozing off by his bed. The other party's information automatically appeared in the mind. He is not Yuhai's relatives or friends but one of the police officers in charge of Yuhai's car accident case. Yuhai committed suicide. He has no relatives, so the hospital can only contact the police who brought him here. He saw that Yuhai woke up and seemed to want to say something, but he opened his mouth and closed it again. People who want to commit suicide are very emotionally unstable, and he was afraid that his words would irritate the other party. The result of the case was not found out, but Yuhai, the victim, committed suicide. I think the police uncle felt very uncomfortable. Yuhai felt a little sympathetic to the other party. He opened his mouth to say something, but his throat was dry and he couldn't help coughing twice. The young policeman hurriedly poured Yuhai a glass of water. Yuhai finished his drink quietly, then cleared his throat, and twitched the corner of his mouth weakly at him. I'm sorry to cause you trouble. The policeman hurriedly waved his hands. He seemed to want to comfort Yuhai, but stopped, and hurriedly took out his mobile phone. I'll call the captain. Looking at the back of the policeman outside the ward, Yu-Hai began to think about how to solve the situation in front of him. The culprit must not go unpunished, but the evidence is really hard to come by. If Suyu Cheng dared to blatantly use the original owner's song, he must think that the police could not find his evidence. Without solid evidence, it is impossible for him to crucify the other party on the pillar of shame. Thousands of thoughts swirled in Yu-Hai's mind. Chapter 2: Arrest. Just as Yu-Hai was thinking hard about how to punish the murderer. At this time, Suyu Cheng, who was chanted by him, was also panicked and contradictory. In fact, unlike what Yu-Hai guessed, Suyu Cheng didn't publish the song because he thought the matter was perfect. It's just that things are indeed out of his control. Previously, Suyu Cheng's team had publicized the fact that Suyu Cheng was going to release an album early on. However, less than a week has passed since the original release date, and the recording of the album has not yet been completed. Helpless, Suyu Cheng could only push down some commercial performances and return to Suking to catch up with work urgently. On the night of July 10th, he quarreled with his underground girlfriend and went out for a drive in a bad mood. Taking advantage of the night, he was in the convertible car, drinking wine while the night wind was blowing, and gradually relaxed. After the alcohol got on him, the speed of the car couldn't help but increase. When he came back to his senses, he had already run through a red light and knocked a passersby into the air. Suyu Cheng was so frightened that he woke up after drinking. He put on the mask and had almost subconsciously before getting out of the car to check. It's a pity that the middle-aged man who was knocked into the air died on the spot, and the young man who was protected by the middle-aged man also fell unconscious. Suyu Cheng, who was blank in his mind, realized that there was no one around. He was already sitting in the car and driving to his villa. From the beginning to the end, he didn't know whether he was too scared or too flustered, but he never thought of calling the police or emergency calls. It wasn't until Suyu Cheng returned home that he found that he had picked up the notebook that had been knocked down by someone. However, at this time, he had no intention of going back and returning it. He casually left the blood-stained notebook aside. Suyu Cheng was hypnotized by alcohol amidst the anxiety and fear in his heart, and fell into a drowsy sleep again. When he woke up the next day under the call of his assistant Zhao Nian, he was surprised to find that no police came to the door. Looking back on the road where the incident happened, it was really remote. Maybe there was no probe at that place, or the probe didn't take pictures of him at all. So Suyu Cheng, who postponed the recording of the song, waited at home for another day on the grounds of feeling unwell, and found that the police hadn't come to the door, which made him feel a little relaxed. On the third day, at the urging of his manager, he walked into the recording studio and began to record the last song on the new album for himself. He was surprised to find that the lyrics of the last song was not the song he had planned before. He looked at his manager suspiciously. The other party looked at him with a smile. I think this song is better, and it can be released as the title song of the album. I didn't expect you Cheng to write such a good song besides electronic music. Really? You have this ability. Why didn't you take it out earlier? If Zhao Nian didn't find your composition book when you were packing up for you, when are you going to hide it? Suyu Cheng was a little confused. Why couldn't he understand a word the manager said? The composition book, he asked blankly. That's it. The agent took out a notebook with a brown skin. There is a pattern of musical notes on the cover. It looks like a very ordinary notebook. It costs more than 10 yuan online. There are some dark stains on the surface of the notebook. It is a little dirty and wrinkled, and it looks like it has been used often. This Give You All should be the best song you have written so far. The others are a bit immature. Keep working hard in the future. Suyu Cheng's eyes widened and his body stiffened. This is the notebook he picked up at the scene of the car accident. This is not before he had time to deny it. The manager had already opened the door of the recording studio with a notebook and walked out, leaving a sentence: okay, record the song well. With this song, we will help you to run it well, and you will definitely become the leader of the entertainment industry. A well-known talent. You really don't know how to cherish it. Look how dirty it is. Suyu Cheng wanted to follow up and explain to the other party, this is not a song written by himself, but he opened his mouth, and the denial stuck in his throat. He couldn't explain the origin of this book. It was absolutely impossible for him to let people know that he had killed someone. He stood stiffly on the spot, and it took him a long time to force himself to calm down. Looking at the lyrics and score in his hands, he realized that the song was written quite well. It was a work that he couldn't write. If he published it, he should can fire. An unstoppable thought began to flow in his mind. No one knew he hit the man with his car. He didn't call emergency services, and maybe the boy died later. In this case, no one will know that this song was not written by me. This song is really well written. If he publishes it, will those who criticize his music like shit be slapped in the face? If this song is published, then my popularity and commercial value will definitely increase again. Maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it was greed. In short, Suyu Cheng recorded this song and released it as the title song of the album. Then the day after his album was released, the police came and asked him about a red sports car he owned. In this regard, Suyu Cheng, who had expected it for a long time and had rehearsed it countless times in his mind, easily replied that he lost it. Without evidence, the police could not search, so they let him go temporarily. Few people could afford the sports car he drove, so he could have predicted that the police could find people through the car. But as long as they couldn't prove that it was him who was driving, then everything was fine. As a public figure, without evidence, the police would never dare to do anything to him. After another 4 or 5 days like this, Suyu Cheng has gradually relaxed at this time, and he is about to feel that he has nothing to worry about. Perhaps this matter will become a secret of his life. Just in case, he also asked the studio to issue an announcement, stating that he owns the copyright of the song and has the initiative. In parallel world, copyright is everything. However, what Suyu Cheng didn't expect was that, but within a few days, the police found him again. This time, the police directly stopped him in a public place after one of his commercial performances. This time it was not an interrogation, but a detention. His assistant and manager were also taken away. Some netizens took pictures of this scene, and the excitement of the melon-eating crowd can be predicted.